All right, it's 8:05, so I'll begin. There might be people joining us, and that's fine. Welcome to day 3 of the online AWD1100 C# programming class for spring 2024. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to write programs. You can write with me, you can watch, you can do whatever you want. But before we start, I have to mention something, in my opinion. This is the most important thing that I'm going to mention in this class, and that is the first 2 lectures that I did this semester. I did them. All right. Some of you were here live for them. Some of you weren't. Either way is fine. All right. But what I did afterwards was I put those lectures out in the public domain on my YouTube channel. Now, today we're going to go over these practice exercises, and I'm actually going to go over your homework assignment. I'm going to do the homework assignment problems. Normally, I wouldn't do this. All right. But because there's also a class in St. Louis that is doing this stuff, what's going to happen is the video that I make today will be private. You will get an email, or I'm sorry, a YouTube invite to the email. Try that again. You will get an invite to go and look at the YouTube presentation, but it will be private. Now, I'll send this out later today, all right? But after I send it out, if you do not get an invitation, sometimes that happens. So if you do not get an invitation, you will have to email me and let me know, and then I'll resend the invitation to you. So I sent out a folder this morning, and that folder had in it first a C# practice worksheet with about 5 problems. All 5 of the problems, or 4, whatever it was, all of the problems were to create these using Windows Forms apps. Okay, so I'm going to do all those first. I have no idea how long this will take. I really and truly don't. All right, after we get done with those, then there were about 4 problems on your homework, and I believe the first 3 were console apps, and the last problem was a Windows app. So again, we're going to go through all of those as well. All right. So again, we will first go through these 4 or 5 problems, whatever it is, and we'll go through these 4 problems. Then I'm going to talk about the pretest. I'm not going to do the pretest today. The idea is, and these are harder problems. I'm just warning you right now. So if you try, there's like 4 problems on there. If you try them and don't get any of them, it's okay. All right. But if you can understand these, you should be able to whiz through the first test, and it really shouldn't be any kind of problem. There'll be a couple problems on the test. You'll be like, are you serious? This is what you're asking me to do, and you're giving me points for this? Yes. The first test is relatively easy. And the word relative is a relative term. So for me to say something is easy is a lot different than for you to say that it's easy. And I understand that. All right. So, like I said, this is the goal, the idea. I'm going to start with these, then we're going to do these, and then we're going to talk about this. Now, again, there is no class on Monday for the Martin Luther King observance. On Tuesday, I'll start up, all right, but I'm probably not even, well, I guess I'll probably have to tape and leave it on, but there'll be a lot of dead air in there otherwise, okay? In fact, I'll probably make 2 tapes. So I'll go from about 8:05 till, maybe 8:10 or so, just to remind people what we're doing, all right? You don't have the ability to pause the tape in Teams. I don't know why, but they don't provide that capability. And then at 10 o'clock, I'll go in and I'll do the pretest. All right. Then Wednesday will be your first hands-on test. That hands-on test, as it says, will be emailed to you by 7 a.m. I'll go over the test directions from 8:05 till 8:20. Also, just so you know, that 15 minutes while I go over the test directions, That will also be a private video. We're a little bit ahead of the class that's in the classroom in St. Louis. So I don't want to sit there and let them see the test ahead of time because they'll be taking the same test. You will be given the test by 7. We'll go over it from 8:05 till 8:20. Literally, that's it for lecture then on Wednesday. I'll be online until at least noon. After that, I'll be online, and I'll check my email fairly regularly. But the test will be due by midnight on Wednesday. I am still waiting to hear back from the people from GitHub. And if I don't hear back this weekend, I'm going to have to come up with something else. And I'm not a happy camper about that, but it's my own fault. All right. And your completed homework and written tests will be due a week from Sunday. And if you go, what about those written tests? We'll talk about those on either Tuesday or Wednesday. All right, so that's it. So let's just get started. And just so you know, I've made 2 folders already. One called C# practice, and it's empty. And another one called C# homework, and that's empty as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up this thing that was called C# practice. All right, now this problem right here, this is problem 2.1 and 3.1 from the extra exercises. See, it's the same thing that came with your book. All right. And the next problem that's in there is 4.1. You go, wait a minute, 4.1, we're not into chapter 4 yet. That's true. I'm going to go over it with you. And again, these are practice exercises. All right. So you can follow along and hopefully they will make sense to you. Then I had 3 more. And this one is, these 2 are going to be so fast, they're literally just a few lines long. And then we'll write this one. If we get all that done by the break, fantastic. If we don't, totally fine. I'm going to go till 9 o'clock. Then we'll take a 15-minute break, regardless of where we are. All right. When I come back, I'll either finish this, or if we have finished it, I'll then start on the one for the homework, which has got these 4 problems in. After we finish that, if we get it done and there's time before the next break, fine. If there's not, then after the break, we'll finish if we have to. And then we'll look quickly at this pretest. So that's the plan for today. And one last time, again, this is going to be a private, all right, a private video. You should be getting literally you get like an email with a hyperlink on it. You click it, you should be able to open it then without any problem. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, just so you see this is the way that it's supposed to look. All right. So you can see it's a very, very simple. All right. It is a very, very simple interface. Right, good. Yeah. If you guys haven't figured it out already, if somebody is trying to get in, any one of you can admit them. All right. So if you see an admit button, you can click it. It's totally fine and let them in. I'd appreciate that. All right. So again, this is the first one. We're going to put in a number grade and we're going to give the corresponding letter grade. All right. And I use the rank and scale here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally just grab all of this right here and copy it to the clipboard. All right. Now I'm going to start up. There we go. I'm going to start up Visual Studio and get going. All right. I'm going to try to give you practice exercises, hopefully for every set that we go through. So next week we'll go through 4 and 5. We probably won't finish all of it. And that's fine. But then you'll get some exercises for 4 and 5 and a practice test for 4 and 5. All right. Then we'll do 6 and 7, etc. All right. So I'm going to create a new project here. It is going to be a Windows Forms app.NET framework. And I'm going to call this one Practice 01 because it's for the first set of practices 01. So it's the first practice exercise of the first set of practice exercises. And I'm just going to put it into a solution that's going to be named practice, period. All right. And I'm going to put that whole thing into the folder that we just talked about, C# practice. All right, so practice 01_01. Location is in the practice folder, and the solution name is practice. And I'm going to click create. All right, now the first thing I'm going to do, and I haven't been doing this before, but this is what I am going to do. I copied in the requirements. So I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose view code. You can also hit the F7 key as you see. And I'm going to get rid of all these. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a comment. And in that comment, this is going to have what I just copied in. Why am I doing that? So I'm not constantly having to go back to the test or to the page that I've handed out to you. I can just go right from here. At least that's what I'm going to try to do. All right, we'll see how it works. Again, like I said, I used the rank and scale here. Didn't have to do that, but that's just what I decided to do. All right. Now I've already made this, just so you know, but it looks like this. Again, it's pretty simple interface. We're going to have a number grade. We're going to have a letter grade, calculate button, clear button, and exit button. All right. So this is going to be literally our interface. And up here, it'll say calculate letter grade. Now I have, oops, I don't want to do that. I have found out something, and this is what somebody had told me a year ago, and I guess I forgot all about it, but I'm going to tell you about it right now. All right. And that is, if you want to rename your form, rename it before you put any controls on it. And I want to just call this, you know, letter grade, FRM letter grade. So right now I'm going to right mouse click on where it says that, and I'm going to choose rename. And I'm going to put in FRM letter grade. Hit enter. Do you want to change everything? Yes. And it changed it just fine. If you put controls on and you try to rename the form, typically it's going to complain at you and you're going to have to rename it back to form1.cs. All right. I don't know why that is, but it is. I've not looked up as to why it is. Now, as we do this, I'm going to do something that I don't think we've talked about yet. I'm going to create two what are called constants. Let me create them and then I'll explain to you what they are. Let's see. All right. I'm assuming that when someone takes a test, the minimum grade that they can get on the test is 0. They didn't take the test, or they totally bombed the test, or they turned in an empty test, or whatever. I'm also going to assume that the maximum grade they can get on a test is 100. Now, this could be redone. So if we get a quiz that was worth 10 points, you could change that from 100 to 10 or whatever. But this is what I'm assuming for what we're working on in here. All right, so I've added those first. I like to put a comment up here that says declare and initialize program constants. Now, one thing about a constant in C#, it is literally that. It is a constant value. So the value of min grade and max grade cannot change while the program's running. If I decided I wanted to give everybody a min grade of 5 for whatever reason, I'd have to stop the program run and change this 0 to a 5. All right, but as it stands right now, that's it. Okay, now I'm going to jump back into design mode here. I'm going to keep these simple. I am going to change the color on all of them just because I like doing that. All right, if that bothers you, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep doing it. All right, so my interface again is really simple. I'm going to click on my form. I'm going to go down to the text that is down near the bottom, and I'm going to have here calculate letter grade or something similar to that. And now that's here. All right, so now I'm going to build my interface. The order in which you put in these controls is totally up to you. It really doesn't matter. All right, but it's going to be a simple interface. It's going to have two labels, which I'll put in first. So there's one of my labels. I'm going to go over here and do two things to it. I'm going to change the color of it, both the background and the foreground color. All right, don't worry, because I want to make it bigger too. So I'm going to go over to auto size, double click where it says true, and now it says false. So that'll be one of my labels. And I'm going to copy and paste, and there's my. All right, now I want to create two text boxes. So I'm going to double click on the text box tool, bring that over here, stretch that out just a little bit, and then again, do a copy and paste. And now I've got that. And what's left is I want three buttons. So I'm going to go up to here and find my buttons. There that is. You should probably guess. I'm going to make it wider, and I'm going to make it a little chunkier. So it looks like that. And again, copy, paste, paste. All right, so I now have, basically what I have here is I have my interface built. Okay, I want to move that over just a little bit because I think that looks okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight all of them. And again, there's two ways that I can highlight all of them. I can either A, hold down on my left mouse button and start dragging. That's called lasso, all highlighted, or I can just do a Control A, which highlights all of them also. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm moving this way over so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go down to my font here, and I like doing it this way. So I'm going to change this to 20-point font, bold, and Arial there. Now, and the reason I do that is it seems to display pretty well like that, and the people don't seem to have a hard time seeing it then. Now I'm going to go over to my labels here. I highlighted just the two labels. I'm going to go down to text align. This is just what I like to do, and center them. Then I'm going to go over and highlight by lassoing my two text boxes, go to text align and set that to center. All right. And then start filling this in. So again, always before you put in any code, you should always, always, always rename your controls. So again, looking at this one, okay, doesn't matter which one of these I used. We have the number grade, then the letter grade. Okay. So I'm going to call this label LBL number grade. Remember, started with a Microsoft LBL prefix. So LBL number grade. And I'm going to put in there for the text number grade. And it needs to be a little wider, as you can see. So I'll take that and unlock the controls. Well, I guess I locked them. Let's unlock them and make this a little wider. There we go. All right. And lock it back up again. So I've got LBL number grade there. And now I'm going to make this one TXT number grade. All right. And this will be LBL letter grade. All right. And this will be, and we'll have it say letter grade for the text. And this will be TXT letter grade. You don't have to name them the same thing. To me, it just makes sense to do that, and most books will recommend the same thing. All right, now for button here, buttons start with BTN, so this will be BTN calculate. And I'm going to go down to my text, and I'm going to put an ampersand calculate, so the C is underlined. The next one will be clear. So I'm going to call that BTN clear. And the text for that will be, remember, you can only have one C that's got an ampersand before it. So this will be C ampersand LEAR. And the last one will be exit, which is usually E ampersand XIT. And the name of that will be BTN exit. And I've shown you this already before, but I'm going to again. And that is what I want to do now is make sure I've renamed everything. So I'm going to come up here. It doesn't matter what's highlighted. And I'm going to click this down arrow to show me the names of all my controls. And you can see that, yes, indeed, all of my controls have been renamed. All right. So now I'm going to put in my code. So I'm going to open up my 3 routines. There is my calculate. There is my clear. And there is my exit. All right. I'm going to try to give you good programming habits from the get-go. I sort of started showing this to you yesterday, but I'm not going to come in and build in menu options like I did yesterday, but I'm going to write separate routines for each one of these. All right. I like to do the clear first because it's typically the easiest. And there's only 3 things I want to do here. I want to clear this. I want to clear this. And I want to put the focus here. That's the first thing. That's all I want to do in there. Plus, the letter grade actually should be a read-only field. So I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go down to read-only and change it from false to true. And it's gray now. So it cannot get the focus. I can't change what's in there. All right. But I want to clear, and I want to set the focus. It's pretty simple. Now, I could do it all right in here, but I'm going to just call the new method that's just going to be called clear form. It gives me an error because it hasn't been written yet. So private void clear form. And I already told you what's in it. TXT number grade dot text equals nothing. TXT letter grade dot text equals nothing. TXT number grade dot focus. That's the whole routine. Now, if I go to test it now, the only thing I can actually test is this one because that's read only, so there won't be anything in there. But I can run it. I haven't set my cancel button and my accept button and my tab order. We'll do that in just a bit. But I can save it and run it. All right. And I can put some junk in here and then click in here and click clear. Now that appears then to be working. That's good. That's a good start. All right. Then I've got my exit that I typically do next. And I usually call mine exit program or not. That, again, that's totally an arbitrary name if you think it's stupid. And when you're doing this and you want to put in your own name, hey, go for it. Not a problem. Now, one thing I'm going to try to remember to do during the break today, and that is to grab this code that I told you I was going to give you and send it all out, or send it out to all of you in an email. All right. So again, that is going to create a message box, and that message box will have in it the message, do you really want to exit the program? It'll have a title in it that'll say exit now. It'll have a yes and a no button, and it'll have a question mark for the icon. And if you click the yes button, the program will end. So let's again do a file save all, and let's run it again and see if that works. Exit. If I say no, I stay in the program. Exit. If I say yes, I'm going. That's good. So that's all working. All right. So the only thing to do yet is my calculate button. And what am I doing in here? Well, I'm going to calculate a letter grade, right? So I'm going to call a routine called calculate letter grade, which hasn't been written yet. So private void calculate letter grade. And all void means is it's not going to return any value. It's void of a return value. All right. Now I'm showing you something that you weren't asked to do in this practice exercise. It's a little extra or whatever I'm going to say. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say in here that if you put in a value for your test grade that's less than 0 or if you put in a value for the test grade that is greater than 100, I'm not going to accept it. Rather, I'm going to bring up my own message box that's going to say something like number grade must be between 0 and 100, because that's actually an error condition. And this is one of the things we're going to be building toward as we get going in here. So the first thing I'm going to do, say decimal. All right, and I'll say, in fact, I'm going to do it, I'm sorry, int number grade equals int 32.parse txt number grade dot text. And again, what is that doing? All right, that is saying I'm trying to take whatever value that gets put in there and convert it into a number, a whole number. If I leave that blank or put something non-numeric in there, or even if I put a decimal point in there, all right, it'll break the program. We're going to learn how to fix that very shortly. All right, but we're not worried about that right now. All right. So, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Well, let's get rid of that. And this is a little review for you. I don't want to have this code in here for text number changed. Maybe you remember how to fix that. Maybe you don't. But I'm going to click on there, all right, my number grade. And I'm going to go over to here and I'm going to click on the lightning bolt and find that where it says TXT number grade text changed. I'm going to highlight it, hit delete, and now it's gone. All right. Okay. So we've come in here and we set up a number grade. Now I'm going to say this. If this number grade, you can see that the IntelliSense is already figured out, oh, do you want to say if it's less than 0? So I could accept that, but I'm going to say if it's less than not 0, we got something in here, remember, called min grade. All right. So if it's less than the minimum grade, or notice again, the IntelliSense says, oh, do you want to say greater than max grade? That is what I want. So what I'm doing right here is what's typically called a range check. My range is 0 through 100. So I'm checking to see if the number grade that was inputted was out of range. And what do I want to do if it is? Well, I'm going to do my own right here, message box dot show. And I'm going to say number grade. Let me move these over a little bit here. All right. And I'm going to say number grade must be between 0 and 100. Now, I'm not going to take the time to do this, but, well, in fact, I will, just so you see it. Rather than saying that, must be between 0 and 100, I could say must be between, and then I could say here, min grade and max grade. That's going to do the same thing. It's going to say number grade must be between and 100. All right. And then I'm going to put my title in here, which is going to say out of range number grade input. All right. I like to give pretty precise messages and even titles to let the person know what went wrong. And yeah, I'll have an OK button, and yeah, I'll have an error. Again, it's just the way I do things. I put these each on their own line like this. Now I can already check this. So let's do a file, save all. Let's come in here, run it, and I'm going to put something that's out of range. And you see I get number grade must be between 0 and 100, out of range number grade input. All right. The other thing that'd be kind of nice to do would be to clear this out and put the cursor back there. So let's do those as well. So I'll say txt number grade dot text equals double quote, and txt number grade dot focus. So I'm clearing it, and then I'm setting the focus back. All right, let's do another file, save all, and run it again and see if that worked. And there's our message, and it cleared out and it put the cursor there. All right, so all that's working. Okay, before I go on, I'm doing this a little out of order, but I'm going to fix this. And what I mean is I want to do 2 or 3 things here quick. I'm going to click on the form, just single click on it. Don't double click on it or you're going to bring up a code window. So single click on your form. I'm going to go to my accept button and I'm going to set that to BTN calculate. I'm going to go to my cancel button and I'm going to set that to BTN clear. And I'm going to go down to my start position and shows default location to center screen. Now it's going to start running in the middle of the screen. One last thing I'm going to do, and that is I'm going to go up to View, Tab Order, and I'm going to set it to 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and do another View, Tab Order to make the numbers go away. And now what you'll see is when I run it, the form is centered. So again, if I put something out of range in it, I get my message right there. And there I am. Okay, so we've done that. So we made our range check. So if we do get down to here, I'm going to say here else. All right, I'm going to put more in there in just a second. But if I get down to this point, I put in a number and that number must be between 0 and 100. This is just one of those things you're going to have to understand that that's the way it is. All right. So we've got this, and I'm going to say else if, let's see, number grade is greater than or equal to, all right, 92.5 M. All right. And why did I put that in there? Because I'm using the rank and stuff. All right. So if it's greater than or equal to 92.5 M, they got an A. So letter grade equals A. That's wrong there. Let me fix that. All right. Now, what's the problem here? I don't have anything that I created called letter grade. All right. So I've got 2 things I can do. I can either just come in here and say txt letter grade dot text equal A, which is okay to do. Or I can come up to the top of the program here and say string letter grade. And I can set it equal to the empty string. So now I can come in here and say letter grade equal A. All right. Now you might say, is there an advantage of one versus the other? This is a better way of doing it, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute. All right. So that's handling the A. And I'm going to have a bunch of these else's in here, so I'm just going to copy them. I wouldn't normally do it like that, but again, I don't want to sit there and have to have you watch me type. One is 89.5. And if that's the case, your grade was a B+. All right. Then the next one is an 83.5. Hate that all that stuff shows up like that. So an 83.5, and that's a B. All right. Then the next one is 80.5. And that's a C+. And the next one is a 74.5, and that's a C. And I'm going to copy this down 2 more times for a D and an F. Well, I copy it down 2 more times. All right, let me fix this. All right. All right, the next one then was 69.5, and that's a D. And the last one then is if it's greater than or equal to 0, really, it's an F. Now, I mentioned before that technically this is a better way to write it because now I do have a grade. Something in here, there's a grade. All right. If I reach this, it does that and it just leaves. As soon as the system finds a match, either with the if or one of the else ifs, it does that code and it leaves. It's done with this. Don't know how I got that there, but I did. All right. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom. Now I'm going to say txt letter grade dot text equals letter grade. The advantage of doing it this way is I'm only assigning a value to the text box in one place. All right. Rather than putting it in 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever it is, different places. All right. It's not that big a thing, but I think that's a better way to write your code. So let's go in and test it now. First, again, you already saw this, but I'm going to put in something that's out of range. All right, and out of range here. So those are working. All right, how about 100? They got an A. Now I can either hit clear or I can hit my escape key. All right, now I'm going to try, it was 92.5. So let's try 92. That should be a B plus. And let's try 93. That should be an A. So that's all working. All right, let's try an 80. I don't know what that is. Oops, let's try that again. 80. See if I screwed up. Something's wrong. All right, 80 should not be an A. So what happened here? I didn't change one of these, probably. Yep, that one right there. That should be a C. That was on me. So again, if it's out of range, we're doing this. If it's greater than or equal to 92.5, otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 89.5, you get a B. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 83.5, well, that was a B plus, you get a B. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 80.5, you get a C plus. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 74.5, you get a C. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 69.5, you get a D. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 0, you get an F. I should at least come in here and check each one of these ranges to make sure that they all are working. So again, I already did the putting in bad stuff. So let's put in the 93. That should be an A. How about an 88? All right, that's a B. How about a 90? That's a B plus. All right. How about a 77? There's a C. How about an 84? That's a B. All right. How about an 86? That's a B. How about I don't know, an 81? That's a C plus. So I've checked A, B plus, B, C plus, C. Let's try D, which I think was about a 70. Okay. And then let's just check something less than that. All right. So everything appears to be working. All right. That works. Now my clear clears out everything and puts it back there. And my exit seems to be working fine as well. All right. Okay. So that's the first one that I asked you to do right there. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to save this. One last time, I'm going to do a save all. All right. Now I'm going to close this. And I'm going to come in and under my solution, I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to choose add new project. It'll be again a Windows Forms app. And this one is going to be called practice 01_02. All right, because it's the second one of this first set of practice exercises. So there's that. Just like I did previously, let's just set the color again first. right? And I'm not going to put any code in here yet, but I'm going to go to my code window. You can leave these in. It doesn't hurt anything, but I just like to get rid of them. And I'm going to, again, just like before, I'm going to put in a comment. And that comment is going to be copied in right from this document. So this one is that area and perimeter. So I'm going to have, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different labels, 1, 2, 3, 4 different text boxes. 2 of the text boxes will be read-only. And again, I'm going to put a calculate and a clear and an exit button in. All right. And people have asked, it's like, hey, if we take a test and there's something you didn't put in there, can we add it if we want? Yes, you can. All right. What I end up putting in there are the minimum requirements. But if you decide you want to add something, that's fine. If you don't want to add anything and you just want to put, meet those requirements, that's also fine. All right. So create a form that accepts 2 integers representing the length and width of a rectangle and then calculates both the area and the perimeter of the rectangle. All right. So that's going to be what we want to do. All right. We don't need any constants in here right now. We don't need any constants. All right. But I am going to make a couple of variables that are going to be global. All right. So I'm going to both declare and initialize global variables. And I'm going to have a length and a width. So I'm going to say here an int length. All right. I can say equals 0, int width. Again, equals 0. And I'm going to have another int for the area, which is going to be equal to 0. And one last int for the one last int for the perimeter. The perimeter, is that what it was called? Yeah, the perimeter. Which I'm also going to set equal to 0. Right? And I'm making these global so I don't have to go and pass them around all over the place. What do I mean by that? That's going to be a later chapter in the book. All right, you will see that. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and I'm going to change the name of my form right away. And I'm going to rename it as FRM calculate area and perimeter. Yes, I want to change it. All right, and then I'm going to change the text up here from form 1 again to calculate area and perimeter. All right, so that's been changed. Now I'm going to add my 4 different labels. All right, and change the auto size. So I'm going to have 4 things in here. Again, this is going to be my length. This is going to be my width. This is going to be my area. This is going to be my perimeter. All right, I've got those 4 things in here. All right, and then underneath that, I'm going to add 3 buttons. Again, you've seen me do this now plenty of times. All right, and finally, I'm going to add 4 text boxes. All right, I want to move this over a little so it looks somewhat centered. That's not great, but it doesn't look terrible either. I'm going to lasso this time so you see it. I'm going to come over here to my font, and I'm going to set that, as I have been doing, to 20 bold Arial. Okay, that's all done. I want to center again my labels, so I'm lassoing those into text align, I am changing it to the one in the center. Do the same thing here for my text boxes and set that to center. All right, now I'm ready to start working with my names. You can see this isn't perfectly lined up. I could come in here and make it smaller, etc. All right. Do I have to do that? No. I mean, it doesn't look bad the way it is. It depends on how particular you are with this stuff. All right. Now I'm going to do, let's lasso it again. And I'm going to right mouse click and choose lock controls. So now my thing is locked into order. All right. I think this first one was length, if I've got that right. Length, width, area, perimeter. Okay. So this is length. So as you probably already guessed, I'm going to make it LBL length. And I'm going to put the text there of length. All right. And I'm going to make this TXT length. All right. And this will be LBL width. And it'll have the text on it width. I like a colon on the end there. And this will be TXT width. All right. This will be LBL area with the text area. And this will be TXT area. Finally, on these four, this will be LBL perimeter. And the text will be perimeter. All right, and this will be TXT perimeter. All right, and for my buttons, as always, this will be BTN calculate. And the text will be ampersand calculate. This will be BTN clear with text C ampersand LEAR. Finally, this will be exit. So it'll be BTN exit. And the text will be E ampersand XIT. All right, so these are all done. Let's double check and make sure I've renamed everything. And it looks like I have. So again, I'm going to put in the code and then we're taking a break. All right. So again, what do I want to do here? I want to, well, first, let's make these read only. All right, because they're calculated values. So I'm going to make them read only. So I lassoed them and I'm going to the read only property and changing it from false to true. And they get gray. All right, next, let's set our accept and cancel buttons. So click on the form, go to the accept button and change it from none to BTN calculate. Go to the cancel button and change it from none to BTN clear. Go down to our start position, change it from Windows default location to center screen. And then finally, let's do our tab order. So view, tab order, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And another view tab order. Okay, now let's put in our code. So that'll be our calculate. We got our clear and our exit. Well, our clear is going to be clear, 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 clear. Put the focus here. So let's do that first. So again, I'm going to call clear form, which is a routine I'm writing. Doesn't exist, so let's write it. And it'll be txt length dot text equals nothing. Txt width dot text equals nothing. Txt area dot text equal nothing. Txt perimeter dot text equal nothing. And finally, txt length dot focus. We can check that one out right away, so let's do that. File, save all. Let's run it. Oh, I got to remember I have to set this as my active project. So I click on the project itself, right mouse click, and choose set as startup project, not active. So there it is. So I can put stuff in here and in here. I'll click down here. Clear appears to be working. Let's do our exit next. And I'm going to copy that code in that I want to give you during the break. You can check that now. So again, a file, save all. We should be able to check this. So exit, no, exit, yes. Okay, those are both done. So let's quickly, because I only have 5 minutes before I said I'd give you the break. So we're going to call this, let's have two different things we want to do here. We'll call two routines. Now, for both routines, we're going to want to do the same thing. So I'm actually going to call three routines here. I'm going to call set length, then I'm going to call set width, and then I'm going to call let's make those capital S's. And I'm trying to keep in vogue with the way they do it in our book. All right, then next we're going to call calculate area and calculate area. Okay, we'll fix that in a minute. Finally, we'll call calculate perimeter. All right, so let me fix this to calculate area. All right, it's giving me those errors because we don't have these written yet. All right, so let's do these right away. Okay, so set length. Okay, and the width. Actually, why don't we just write one routine here that's called set length and width, and it'll be just as good. We could write it as two, but we don't. So this will now be set length and width, like that. And how do I do that? I'm going to say length equals, and we said, remember we did that up here. Okay, so we're going to say, and there's different ways of doing this. I'm going to say int32.parse txt length.text. Width equals, and notice it's already figured it out for me. Okay, so those are both done now. All right, now why is it giving me an error? Set length and width, did I call it something different? Yes, I forgot the word set there. All right, so that's the first one. Then we need to calculate the area. Then we need to calculate the perimeter. All right, so private void, calculate, we'll do the area first. Now, again, we could do all this together. I'm separating stuff out because that's the way you code. And that's what I'm trying to show you. All right, and the formula for that is length times width. All right, so area equals length times width, txt area dot text equals area dot toString. That's going to print it for us. All right, then finally we need to calculate perimeter. And again, we've got our formula right here, which is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. All right. And again, all I did was copy that in. And that was from our requirements. And then txt perimeter.text equals perimeter.toString. I think we're done. All right. So file, save all. Now I'm going to use something simple here. I'm going to put in a 10 and I'm going to put in a 20 to see if I did this right. So the area is going to be length times width. So this should be 200. The perimeter should be 2 times 10, which is 20, plus 2 times 20, which is 40. 20 plus 40 is 60. So this should be 200 and this should be 60. And they are. I can clear. I can put in other numbers. All right. And I get different stuff. All right. So clear and exit. Yes, I want to exit. All right. So we are going to take a break. It is 9. And when we come back from the break, then I'm going to do these. They'll go a lot faster, especially these two. We can do these two in probably 10 or 15 minutes. All right. It's 9 o'clock. I always make the first break the longest. So let's please come back at 9:15. I'll see you then. All right, it's 9:15, so I'm going to start back up again. Before I do, two things quickly. First of all, right before the break, I did that code, so I emailed you this here, which is the code for the exit button. So you should all have that now. Second, I got an email during the break from somebody who said, hey, it's hard to keep up with you. I can understand that. Yes, I will take everything I'm doing for this practice exercise. I will take my folder and I will zip it and I will email it to you. Now, that's not normally what I do. Normally, I would put it out on GitHub, but I'm still waiting to hear back from those people. All right, but I'll show you that by the end of the period. Okay, so let's continue on. So the next one is the number even or odd? So again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come back out here. And I can close this one now because we finished the second one. All right. And I'm going to make my next one. So I'm going to go to Solution, right mouse click, Add New Project. It'll again be a Windows Forms app. And this one, Practice 01_03. And again, I'm just going to take this. This is very short because it's a very short program, but I'm going to put in that comment. And the comment just says, is the number even or odd? You might, as we go through this, I don't know, you might be surprised at how simple this program is. So write a C# program to check if a given number is even or odd. All right, so that's my whole comment in here. It's a very simple interface. Again, this is our third one. And it's going to have 2 labels, 2 text boxes, and 3 buttons. Again, let's change the name. So I'm going to call it FRM odd or even. And I'll put the text here for the form. Is the number odd or even? Okay. Come in here and let's add our 2 labels. There's one. Make my copy, make my 2 text boxes. In fact, in here, all I want to say is odd or even. I can make this a read-only text box, or I can make this another label. It's up to me. Doesn't really matter. Okay. And again, as always, the 3 buttons. And I always just eyeball these. You can space this out virtually any way you want to. All right. I'm going to highlight everything. As always, change the size of all my controls to 20, bold, and Arial. You are not asked to do that on tests. If you want to do that, fine. If you want to leave everything default colors and default sizes, that's also fine. All right. Take this and center everything that's in here. And I'm also going to center this. All right. And what else? I'll lock my controls. Let's come in and right away, let's set our accept button and cancel buttons. Oh, I haven't named them yet, so I'm not going to do that yet. We can set the tab order. So view tab order. And that'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another view tab order. All right, and I can set my start position to center screen. All right, so let's name these now. I'm going to call this one just LBL number because that's where I'm going to enter. And it's going to say number. And I'm going to call this TXT number. And this is going to be basically, this is going to say odd or even. So I'll call this LBL odd or even. And again, that's what it's going to say. All right, and this is going to be my result. So I'll just call it LBL result. And I don't need any text in there whatsoever because that's either going to say odd or it's going to say even. All right, so let's do our buttons. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Go. And then, as always, this is going to do the calculation right now. It's that short. So I'm going to say calculate odd even status, and I'll write that right down below. And all I have to do in here is just say, let's see, int number, okay? And that number is going to be actually equal to int 32.parse, and I want to parse txt number.text. Finally, if the number, this isn't right, if I take the number and divide it by 2 and it's equal to 0, it's even. So if that's the case, txt, sorry, LBL result, I guess we called it, dot text equal even. Else LBL result dot text equals odd. Okay, so that's done. As always, when we click clear, clear, and get set the focus. So again, I'll call that clear form. There's that. And let's do the exit. And again, I'll just copy in what I just sent to you. And we're done. Now let's go through the code first because I did that very quickly. I understand that. Whoops. If you want to know if a number is even or odd, if you divide the number by 2 and there's no remainder, it's even. If you divide the number by 2 and you get a remainder of 1, it's odd. So that's my logic in here. All right, so that's everything. For the clear, it's just, again, clear, and set the focus. And then for my exit, it's just the stuff we've been doing all along. Now let's go back, because now we can do this. I don't think we did it before. Let's set our accept button to BTN calculate, set our cancel button to BTN clear. We've already set the tab order, and we set the start position. I believe everything else is done. So let's run it and see. Oops, again, I always forget to do that. We have to make this our startup project. So right mouse click on the name of the project and set as startup project. All right, let's run it. And let's go into the code mode so we can just see the one picture on the screen. Here we go. So 37 odd, 540, 5432 even, 0. That one we could put a check in there and say not odd, not even, if you wanted to. It's not that big a thing. And it works with negative numbers as well, because it's still doing the same calculation. Okay, so hopefully that was enough to prove to you that that works. But again, our whole logic that we're putting in here is just this. So there really wasn't a whole lot of thought, logic, or whatever that went into this one. All right, so I'm going to jump right into the next one. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to close this. One thing you may or may not have noticed already, you might say, well, yeah, you're giving us a bunch of these programs and they're all real similar to each other. The setup is similar to one another, but the logic for each one has been different. All right, and you'll find that a lot when you're programming. All right, that once you basically have your GUI set up, all right, that there's a lot of times there's going to be things that you're going to do that is going to be very similar to things you've done previously. Okay, so let's do the next one. So again, I'm going to right mouse click, choose add new project. Again, I'm going to make it a Windows Forms app, and this one will be practice 01 underscore 04. All right, and for this one, all right, that's going to be this one here, is the year of leap year. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and that is that this used to be not unbelievably, this used to be a pretty hard thing to do. All right. But what has happened is over the years, the people from C#, they actually wrote a routine, and that routine is called is leap year. It is almost simpler than what we just did for the last program. All right. It's because the interface will look almost identical. All right. Let's change the name right away. So I'm going to change the name. I'm going to rename it immediately to FRM is leap year. Okay, and we'll change the text over here to is the year a leap year or not? All right, again, you could put virtually anything you want there. Let's change our back color. I think the last one that we did was yellow, so this will be green. And just to change it up a little, I'm going to make my buttons first. Just about right. All right, and again, I will need 2 labels and 2 text boxes. And again, I could put 2 text boxes in here, or I could make one a text box and I could make the other one a label like I did previously. It doesn't really matter. All right, do what you're most comfortable with. So I'm going to put in my labels now. Doesn't look too bad. Now, when you do this, I want to make these both a little wider. It doesn't like it typically when you do it. Watch what happens. Well, it took it there. Sometimes it doesn't, though, and it'll just kind of crunch it up. So I'm going to move these over just a little. There we go. And I'm going to take my interface and I'm going to lock it. All right. Let's go in and set our tab order right away. In fact, let's make this read only, because that's just going to say leap year or not leap years or whatever we want to put in there. Yes, no, whatever. So this, again, will be read only. All right, in fact, let's name these right away. So I'm going to call this LBL year. And it'll say year. We'll worry about centering everything in a bit. And this will be changes to leap year status. Might be too, yeah, it's a little bit too big. There we go. So I'll center these. And I'll center these. Go back and relock this. All right. So we've got LBL year. We'll make this TXT year. And we've got this LBL, LBL leap year status. All right. So this will be TXT year. It is. And this will be TXT leap year status. All right. Setting up our buttons is all right. So everything should be set now, as far as I know. Now we can go in and I'll set my start position. I will set my cancel button and my accept button. And set the tab order. That'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another view tab order. And let's write the code. So calculate, we'll call calculate the status. All right, and I'll write that first. So now years is the people who, I don't know what you call them, the C# people. They've made a routine now that's called is leap year. So we can just call that. So I'll say int year equals int 32.parse txt year dot text. And then all we have to do is say if date time, and we'll talk about date time a lot later, so don't worry about it, dot is leap year for a year. So if it's a leap year, we'll say then txt leap year status dot text equal, we'll just say is leap year. All right. Otherwise, say is not leap year. All right. And again, that's our logic for this. Clear, we again want to say txt year dot text is cleared. Txt leap year status dot text is cleared, and txt year dot focus. All right. But I don't like to put that right into my clear button. So I'll get that out of there and I'll call clear form. Paste that back in. So that's done. And our exit with our exit program or not. And as always, I'm just going to copy that code in, the same code I gave you. Oops. All right. And another one's down the drain here, sir. So what are we doing here? Okay, we're saying when you click the calculate button called calculate status, we're taking whatever you put in there. Now, again, if you leave this blank or put in something non-numeric or either one of those, this is going to blow up the program. But if you put in a valid year, I'll do it with 2024, and that is a leap year. So it should come back and say, is leap year? Is not leap year. Let's do this. We don't have to do this, but let's do this anyway. I'm going to make these a little wider. About like that, that should be good. All right, and I'm going to change what we're putting in here, and I'll say year dot to string is leap year. So now it'll say, should say 2024 is a leap year. Otherwise, if I do 2025, it should say 2025 rather, is not a leap year. Okay. All I'm doing now is just making a little bit more, hopefully, pleasing. All right. So file, save all. Let's run this. And as always, I forgot to go and set my startup project. All right. So this year is 2024. This is a leap year. Do next year, 2025, is not a leap year. Well, it's right to the edge. I could actually make that a little wider, I guess. But you get the idea. All right. If I try 1900, 2100. 2100 is not a leap year. Because one of the things is if it's divisible by, what is it? If it's divisible by 4, not every year divisible by 4 is a leap year. If it's divisible by 100, it has to also be divisible by 400. All right, so 2100 is not a leap year. 2200 is not a leap year. 2300 is not a leap year. And 2400 will be a leap year. All right, I'm not going to worry about what's going to happen 2,000 or 3,000 years from now, but just so you see that. And lastly, I'm going to make this yet even a little bit bigger. Just even them out here. Looks a little nicer. So again, I'll run it one more time and put 2024 in there. And 2025. Now there's plenty of room. Okay, so that's that one. So we've now come in and we've done the first 4 of these 5. All right. So I'm going to come back in again and add yet another new project, yet another Windows Forms app. And this one will be practice 01_05. And so we've done it right away. Let's click on it. Let's immediately make it our startup project there. All right, now I'm going to change the color. I think we're about up to here. All right. And I'm going to change the name of the form right away. What is this one? This is a temperature conversion program. All right. I want to be able to convert it from either from Celsius to Fahrenheit or from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And I'm going to show you the finished product in just a second here so you can see what I did and how I did it. Okay. So let me copy that, bring that in here. Right, that's that. Now, the way that I wrote it, I'm going to show you the one that I did, and this could be done in a lot of different ways. All right, so this was the first one we did, the number grade. Don't need that anymore, so it's gone. This was the second one we did. That was the length or the area in the perimeter. That's gone. This was the third one that we did, and that was the odd or even. That's now gone. This was the fourth one we did, and that was the leap year, the one we just finished. So now that one can be gone. Oops. So this is the way mine looks now. I used a radio button that said, do you want to go from centigrade to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to centigrade? Again, there's different ways that it could be done, but this is how I built my interface. So I have a group box with two radio buttons. I have two labels, two text boxes, one of which is read-only, and our typical three buttons. All right. So let's build that now. Oops. All right, then I need my group box. Oops. Doesn't have to be that wide, but it will have to be pretty long. So do it like that. I can change the color of this as well, and I will. And I'm going to put two radio buttons inside of it. Again, this is all my interface is almost finished. All right, let's do what we always do here. So I'm going to lasso them. And before I even do that, let's do that again. Lasso them and let's set the size. All right, that's a little big right there, but I could change that. I'm just going to leave it for now. All right. I'm going to center my labels. I'm going to center my text boxes. I'm going to make the second text box read only. I'm going to move my buttons down a little bit. And I actually want to move everything down a little bit. It's not too bad. I think I can click on the group box itself and I can change the size of that text. So it's about 10. Let's make it 12. That looks a little better, but that changed these. So I've got to do these. I think I have to do these individually. It was 20 again. So now that one is not real big anymore. And that's okay. This isn't the best interface. It's not too bad though. All right. So as always, I don't want it to say group box. So this is going to be GB for group box. I'll just call it temp converter. All right. And down here, I'll call it temp converter too. You don't have to have any text in there. I could have left it off. All right. This first radio button that's in there, I'm just going to do it the same way I did it before. So the first one is C to F and the second one is F to C. All right. So this will be rad, C to F. And it's going to have the text C to F. All right. Like that. And this one is going to be called rad F to C. All right, so that one's done. This first label, that's going to be an actual, what did I call these? I want to just see. Temperature and converted temperature. Okay. So this will be LBL temperature. And it'll say temperature. And I can already tell this is going to have to be wider. So let's make it wider. And all right, so that is, again, that one is LBL temperature. So I'll make this TXT temperature. And this will be LBL converted temperature. And I'll put converted temperature there. All right, and so I'll make this one TXT converted temperature. All right, and our buttons as always. And I never changed the name of my form. So I'm going to show you what happens when I try to change the name of my form now. I think it still can be done, but I just want to show you what happens. So I just have to Google that and see why. But if I right mouse click now and I want to change this, rename it. Now it's form1.cs now, and I want to make it FRM temp converter. And yes, I want to change it. Now it doesn't like that I did that. And I think the reason it doesn't is there's a discrepancy between what's in this designer file, all right, and what's on the screen. So somewhere in here, and I would guess in this file, all right, it doesn't like something. But if I go back again and rename it again and just make it form1.cs, and I say, okay, it comes, oh, it should at least come back. There it is. All right. And again, I'm sure there's a reason for that. I don't know what the reason is. To be honest with you, right now with where we are, I don't care. All right. So there's going to be our calculate. Close that. There will be our clear. And there will be our exit. So let's do these right away. Okay. Now, again, when I clear this, clear, set the focus, but I also want to clear these two. I don't want either one of them to be checked. All right. So I'm going to come in here and say rad C to F dot checked equal false. Rad F to C dot checked equal false. That'll turn them both off. Then txt temperature dot text equals nothing. txt converted temperature dot text equals nothing. And txt temperature dot focus. Now I can already check this, so I can save it, run this, because I didn't move that over yet, and that's fine. But I can put anything I want in there. Click down here, and I can choose either one of these. When I click clear, that should clear, that should clear, that should clear, and my focus or cursor should be right there. So that's good. It looks like it's working. And our exit's working. Well, that's good. Let's quickly fix these. So we'll set the accept button, as always, to BTN calculate, and the cancel button, as always, to BTN clear, and the start position to center screen. And finally, let's set our tab order, and that will be 0, 1, 2, 3. This is weird with tab order. I don't know if you can actually tab do it or not, but I'll put it there. All right. All right, and another view tab order. All right. So what we have to do is we have to write our calculate program. Now, I did put two global variables in here. All right. So declare and initialize global variables. And they were both doubles. You can make them decimals. It doesn't matter. So decimal Fahrenheit equals 0M, decimal Celsius is also equal to 0M. All right, so I've got those. All right, and then when I do this, I'm just going to say, I'll call convert temperature. All right. So let's write that here. First thing I want to do is if neither one of these are checked. So if this is not checked and this is not checked, I don't care if I have a number there or not. I don't want to do anything. All right. So I'm going to come in here and say that basically. And I'm going to say that is if, now I can do this in different ways. I could say if, and I'm going to show you the bad way first, then I'm going to fix it. I could say if rad C to F dot checked equal false, and I don't want this to run off the screen, so rad F to C dot checked equal false. And there's really nothing wrong with doing that. All right, you can put it in there like that. But there's a shortcut for putting that in. So I'll leave this in here and I'll comment it out so you can see that it's there. And I'm going to change this to if not rad C to F dot checked and not rad F to C dot checked. And again, all that is a shortcut. All right, they do the exact same thing. Okay, and if that's the case, I'm just going to return. I'm not going to give an error. I could put a message box there that says you have to choose one of these, things, but I'm not going to even do that. All right. Now, this is already getting to be a big enough routine. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually end up writing here. So I'm going to say else if rad C to F dot checked. So if I've checked that one, okay, then I'm going to call C to F conversion, which I'm going to write in a minute. All right, that's why it's giving me the error, of course. Else if rad F to C dot checked, I'm going to call F to C conversion, which again, I haven't written yet. Okay. So if neither are checked, I'm just going to return. If the first one is checked, I'm going to call this routine. If the second one is checked, I'm going to call that routine. All right, so let's write those two routines. You'll notice as soon as I do that, oh, I need void. But as soon as I do that, now the error that's there goes away. If I write the other one too, so private F to C conversion, and I need the word void in there. And I put in my curlies. Now I have no errors. All right. But it won't do anything because there's no code in there. And this is pretty simple. All right. And I don't remember how to do this stuff. So I looked online to see how you do a Celsius to Fahrenheit and a Fahrenheit to Celsius. So this is C to F. So Celsius is equal to decimal dot parse. And what do I want to parse here? What I put into my txt temperature dot text. So that's grabbing what I put into that first text box. All right. And it's trying to convert it into a number. And then Fahrenheit is equal to Celsius times 1.8 plus 32. Somebody a lot smarter than me made that up. So since this is a decimal, I need an M there and an M there. Finally, I'm going to come in and say txt converted temp dot text equal Fahrenheit dot toString, and I'll put it to two decimal. I don't even need to put it to any decimal places. I can though, that's fine. Put it to two decimal places, N2. All right, now I'm going to copy this and then just make a couple changes. I'll leave that here so you can see it. This is going to say Fahrenheit is equal to temperature, and this will be Celsius, and that is equal to Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. Now you're going to see errors, or I'm surprised you don't, but it really expects should be an M there and an M there and an M there. And now this is Celsius. And again, that's my logic for each one of those routines. All right, so let's save it. Let's run it. And I'm going to use something simple. Nothing in here, and nothing happens. Even if I put a value in there, nothing happens because neither one of these have been selected. All right. If I go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius, I believe it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. And if I go the other way, it's not going to automatically change. All right. It's not going to automatically change. But now if I go from 0, it's now negative 17. What if I wanted it to change? What if when I click here, I want this to be called again? All right. How do I do that? I'm going to show you. If I double click on this, it brings up the check changed event. So I want C to F in there. So I'm going to call C to F conversion. All right. And then I'm going to bring the other one in here. I'm going to click on the other one here, and I'm going to call F to C conversion. Let's see if that works. I didn't do that on mine, but that's actually a pretty nice thing to do. So again, we'll put in here, click this. Oh, it doesn't like that. If I do that, I'm going to have to put in my numbers first, or I'm going to have to put in some more code to check for nothing in there. So I can run it. Let's put the numbers in there first. So 32, and if I go this way, okay, it fixed it. And if I go this way, so it is calling it. But if I don't put a number in there, all right, it's not going to work. So how do I fix that? I can come in there and say if txt temperature dot text, and I'm going to do a dot trim, and we'll talk about trim on another time. If that's equal to nothing, all right, meaning there's nothing in there at all. If that's the case, I'm just going to return. All right, and I'll have to do that here in the C, have to do it in the F to C also. So now it should work. Because if I go from here to here, nothing's happening. That's what we want to have happen. If I come in here and say 32 and calculate, all right, 0, now I can go the other way. All right, so that's kind of cool. All right, so that's the fourth one. So what that means, that's the fifth one, I'm sorry. So what that means here is we've now gone through all of these. And again, as mentioned, all right, as mentioned, I was asked to take this stuff and give you copies. So this is what I just did, practice. These are the ones we just did. So I'm going to take this. This is, unless I can get my darn GitHub stuff fixed, this is what we'll have to do next week. And I don't want to do this. I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose send to and compressed. File not found or no read permission. I think it's because it's still open. Okay. All right. So there is the version of it. Okay. And it is, oh, it's not big at all. So during the next break, I'll email that to all of you. So you'll have that. All right. But it is 10:03. Let's go till about quarter after, and we're going to start on the next one now. All right. So the practices are done. This is the homework. All right. These, all right, these four problems in here are actually homework. Typically, when you get homework, you'll have 3 or 4 problems, but I want you to do them. We may do one together, all right, or we may do none of them together. I don't know. But today, because we're just starting out here, and I don't really want to take anybody and get them where they just feel like, I can't do this stuff. Again, you can all do it. All right. So I'm going to grab this. This is the homework that's going to be due midnight next Sunday. Now, I do want to say one more thing before we go on. I am not going to save these and make a copy for all of you and send it. No, I'm going to do them but you can watch me either code along, or if I'm going too fast, come back and watch the video later. All right, so this will be the first one. So I'm just going to copy all that. And now I'm going to be using a new folder that's called C# Homework. So I'm going to start up Visual Studio again, and I'm going to create a new project. And this is console. Okay, so I'm going to choose console app.NET framework, and I'm going to call this console 01 underscore. No, I don't want to call it that. What is this? This is homework. So I'll call this homework 01 underscore 01. Excuse me, I'm going to put it into my homework folder. Okay. And I'm going to call the actual solution just homework. Why? Because later, when we get to the next set of homework, I'll put that in there. All right. Now, first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to come in here. I've already copied it, I think. And I'm going to put in that. So write a console program that converts distances from miles to kilometers. Okay. Declare a named constant that's called km per mile, which holds the number of kilometers in a mile, and that is 1.6. Okay, so that's first thing. Next, prompt the user for a distance in miles, and then finally, display the distance in both miles, in both kilometers and miles. For instance, and we'll put this on a new line. For example, 3.0 miles equal 4.8 kilometers. So that's what we're going to write in here. All right, now we're asked to create a constant named km per mile. Constants should be put at the top of the program. So after the word program here, but before we come in here and do main. So again, I'm going to say declare and initialize constants. There's just going to be one const decimal km per mile, and it's equal to 1.6 m. All right, this is a nice short program. All right, string, I'm going to read it in as miles string, and I'll set that equal to nothing. All right, and I'll have a decimal for miles, and I'll have a decimal, and I just called it kilos. You could call it kilometers, it doesn't really matter. Since those are both 0, I can leave them at 0, or I can put an M on there. It really, again, does not matter. All right, so I'm going to type here, write. I'm going to put a shortcut in here. Get rid of all these. I don't need any of them. But I'm going to put in using static system.console. All right. Why? So in here, all I have to do is put in write, as opposed to console.writeLine or system.console.writeLine. So enter number of miles. And I'll put a tab there so it looks a little nicer. And then I'm going to say miles str equals readline. So in other words, whatever I enter in there is going to be put into miles. All right. Then I'm going to say miles equal decimal dot parse mile string. And finally, kilos is equal to the miles times our kilometers per mile. And then all I have to do is a write line. And it's going to say here miles plus miles is plus, and you can format this any way you want. So if you don't like the way I'm formatting it, of course, you should just change it around. Kilos plus kilometers. And believe it or not, that's the whole program. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it, but after we run it, then I'm going to go back and explain it. We need read line here, and if we leave that off, it'll still work, but it'll fly right off the screen and you won't see anything. So, File, Save All. And again, let's run this. And I'm going to use the same one they used for the example, 3. So 3 miles is 4.8 kilometers. It's exactly what it said we were supposed to do. All right. So let's look at this. This is what we're reading in, where it said enter number of miles string. All right. This is going to be whatever was in mile string. We're going to convert it into a decimal value. This is going to be that miles times our constant here, 1.6. So again, tell them to enter miles, read it in as a string, take that string and parse it to a number, take that number and multiply it by 1.6, and then write out the value. That is the entire first program. All right. Now, let's say that you say to yourself, okay, he's not going to save this for us. I'm never going to get all this. What can I do? Well, the whole program is on your screen right now. So you can go and up in your keyboard up on top, you should have a key near the right-hand side of the screen that says either print screen or PTR-SC. And if you click that, and then you go in and you'll have to use something like Microsoft Paint, you can just copy that in. All right. So you can do that if you want. You have to do that, of course. It's whatever you want to do. So that was the first one. So File, Save All. Let's do another one, and then we'll take our next break. So I'm going to close this and this, and I'm going to come into our solution, add new project. It'll be another console app, and this one will be homework 01_02. All right, so there's that one. Again, I'm going to get, you don't have to do that. And I'm going to say use, oops, try that again. All right, I don't know why I put that in there, but somehow that got put in there. So using system and using static system.console. All right, so for this one, and we don't have to worry about, there's no forms, so there's nothing to rename there. Okay, so for this next one, oh, that's the other one. It's this, and this is very simple. So again, I'm going to put that in as a comment. And one thing, I just want you to know this, because sometimes people want to ask questions and feel funky about asking them or whatever. It's like, do you need to put in a comment like this? No. All right. But I will tell you, I'm going to give you a very true story of something that happened to a student of mine. This was years ago. All right. I got a call from a guy who was running a big company, and he said, I'm looking for a programmer. Do you have anybody you'd recommend? And I said, well, there's a few people. And he goes, no, I want to know your top one. So I said, fine. And I knew who the top person was. So that's the person I recommended. He said, can you both come in next Monday and have him bring in some of his code? So I did that. And we were there for 2 hours, and he grilled this guy. All right. And he asked him all sorts of questions. How do you do this? How do you do this? Etc. And he looked at his code. And this guy did a very good job of documenting. I mean, I put in a comment here, but I put in almost no comments in my code. That's, pardon my French, that's piss poor to do. I shouldn't be doing that. But I don't want to spend a lot of time having you watch me type. All right. Whether what I just said is right or wrong. Like I said, I don't want to do that. All right. So, all right. So what we're supposed to do then is read in 4 grades and then give you the average of them. Okay, there's different ways of doing this. And again, by no means am I suggesting that the ways I'm showing you are the best ways. I'm trying to show you the ways that where we are in our careers right now, or where you are in your career right now as a C# programmer, that it makes some sense to you. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bunch of variables. All right. I'm supposed to read in 4 grades. So here they will be. Grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4. And after I read them in, that should be a 3. After I read them in, I'm going to convert them. So they'll be G1, G2, G3, and G4. All right. Then I'm going to add them up. Finally, I want an average. And you'll notice I don't have to give these initial values. I can, but the way that C# works is it takes strings and it automatically initializes them to the empty string. So if I just left this part off, it would basically do it for me. And I've said this to people before, and they're like, then why do you do it if it does it for you automatically? I want to be in control. I do not want the computer to be in control here. I want to be in control. I've been burned enough through my career as a programmer that you can't sit there if something goes wrong and say, well, the software should have done that. They don't care. They're not going to fire the software. All right. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing in here 4 times. And that is, I'm going to say write, and I'm going to put in enter grade 1. And then in just a minute, I'm going to put enter grade 2. And then I'm going to have enter grade 3. And then I'm going to have enter grade 4. Oops, I need a semicolon on the end there. All right. So grade 1, str equals read line. And G1 equals int 32.parse of G1 str. Now I want to do this 4 times. I want to read in 4 grades. So I'm going to grab this, copy it, and put it in there 4 times. Change this to a 2, 3, and 4. What else? Well, that'll have to be, that's a 1, so that'll be a 2. That'll be a 3. That'll be a 4. And here, 1, 2, 3, oops, 3, and 4. Now, the other day, I think it was yesterday, when we wrote some of these, I broke them down into routines. And I took the Windows app programs we did as routines. Today, I just felt like writing all these right in line here. There's only 3 more lines of code or 4 more lines. Total equals grade 1 plus grade 2 plus grade 3 plus grade 4. All right, so there's my total. The average is going to be equal to, and I'm doing something here called casting, which I'll explain in a minute. And that's the entire program. Now let's run it, and then we'll come explain it. All right, I'm a little late on the break, but I wanted to get this far. So again, I'm going to have to enter 4 grades. Oh, boy, I'll do one time. I'll remember to change my startup project. All right. So enter grade 1. Let's do something simple. All right. So I'm going to put in here 10, 20, 30, and 40. Now, when you add those up, that's 100. 40 plus 30 is 70, plus 20 is 90, plus 10 is 100. So it should come back and say that my average is a 25. It doesn't. So something screwed up. That's okay. We'll figure it out right now. What did I do? Well, notice what I did. These all say G1. That should say G2. That should say G3. And that should say G4. That's part of the problem you run into when you do a lot of copying and pasting. So let me run it again. And I'll put in the same numbers. So 10, 20, 30, and 40. There's my average grade. So again, what did we do here? I first came in and set up my variables. 4 different strings for reading in the first grade, reading in the second grade, reading in the third grade, reading in the fourth grade. Then I set up 4 integers. These were the actual grades. So that's when I converted these to numbers. The total was going to be the adding of all 4, and the average was going to be that total divided by 4. So I read in the first grade, converted it to an integer, read, converted it to an integer, read in the third grade, converted it to an integer, read in the fourth grade, and converted it to an integer. Then we said total equals grade 1 plus grade 2 plus grade 3 plus grade 4. All right. Now, what the hell is this? Pardon my French. All right. If I leave this off, it'll work just fine. The program will still work, but I want to show you something. Typically, your grades aren't going to be this. You're going to have something like this: 83, 78, 100, and 56. Notice now the average grade is a 79.25. So I want to remember these because I'll forget them otherwise. So I'm just going to throw in here 88, 78, I'm sorry, 83, 78, 100, oh boy, and 56. All right. Why did I do that? Because I'm going to run the program again, and I'm going to leave this off. All right, now I'm going to run it, and I'm going to put in the same numbers. 83, 78, 100. What the heck are you doing? Try this again. 83, 78, 100, and 56. When we did it before, it was 79.25. Now it's 79. Because what happens, even though my variable was set up as type decimal, when you take 4 integers and divide them by another integer, it throws away any decimal portion. Even if that had been 79.99, it would have made it 79. So by putting this in here, what I'm saying is, and notice what I'm changing. What appears on the right side of an equal sign is a copy. I'm grabbing a copy of this total. And if my total, let's say it was 112, it now is 112.0 that it divides by 4, and it keeps the decimal portion. That's the difference. You're going to see casting in a later chapter, but this provided me an opportunity to at least show it to you right now. Okay? All right. Now, what's left on here, we're taking a break, but what's left on here, oops, are these two. Okay? I will tell you, I'm not going to make it pretty like this. Mine's not going to look nearly as nice, but it'll still work. So we're going to write this console program when we come back, then this rental program. All right. And then I will talk to you about the problems that are on the pretest, and that'll be it for today. It's just about 10:25. Let's take 10 and come back, please, at 10:35. And I will be right back. All right. What I did during the break, just so you know, was I went into here and copied all this stuff in. All right. I created a new project that I called homework 01_03. And then I copied in the comment. All right. Just to get us ahead a little bit. All right. The hardest part of this program, believe it or not, is the formatting to try to make this look halfway decent. Mine, I don't have any of these dashes here. I didn't want to take the time to figure that out. So mine will just look like, well, I'll show you what mine will look like basically. If I get rid of this and this and this and this, this. All right, you can imagine, hopefully. I mean, I can just remove these, but so mine basically looks more like that. In fact, I think these are real left justified. Like that. All right. And like I said, I basically took no time, or very little time, let's put it that way, to do formatting. But I'll use that as my test in just a minute. All right. Again, this is going to be in many ways very similar to what we did before. Now think about this. All right. We are going to add this constant in a minute, but before we do that, we'll need a variable for the year. We'll need a variable for employee 1. We'll need a variable for employee 2, and we'll need a variable for employee 3. All right. This year, we're not going to need 3 of them. All we're going to have to do is when we get done with a year, we'll add 1 to it. When we get done with that year, we'll add 1 to it. We also only need 3 salaries. Because, for example, Bob, after year 1, I want to take 10,000, multiply it by 4%, and he should get 10,400. That should be his new salary. Then the next year, I want to again take that amount and multiply it by 4% to give me this one. So what I'm saying is we need 1 variable for the year, 1 variable for each employee, and 1 variable for each employee's salary. All right, so it's not terrible. It's not like here we need 9 variables. No. So the first thing I'm going to do is to declare and, declare and initialize my program constant. And that's a const decimal. I don't remember what it was called, percent raise, and it's set to 4%. Make sure you do a 0.04, because if you do a 0.4, he won't be upset because you're giving him a 40% raise. All right. So those will be the names of all 3 of our employees. So if we run it with that data, it'll be Bob, Fred, and Will. All right. And again, as I mentioned, I like to come in and initialize these. It's just the way I am. And sometimes you'll even get warnings from the system that says, hey, you don't have to do that. It's already being done for you. I don't care. This will be employee number 2's salary. I'm getting errors now because I've got employee 1's salary in there 3 times. Okay, there's that. Then when I convert them over, I'll have a decimal for emp1 salary, set that equal to 0M, copy that. Here's emp2. And here is emp3. All right. I'll also need to handle that year So I'll have a string that I'll call year str for my year string. And then an int for the year. That's a whole number. Those are all of my variables right there. You want to take a quick look. Now you'll notice that down here, I'm getting a lot of, these are warnings. These are not errors, but it's saying, hey, you created this stuff and you're never using it. If I go to my potential fixes, it'll remove everything for me right now. If I click that, I don't want to type it in again. So I'm not going to do that. All right, again, very similar to what we did before. I'm going to have to do this 3 times. All right, I did put in my shortcut here using static system.console. So I'm going to do a write here. And this will say enter current year. I only have to do that once. Year str equals read line. And then I can gotta convert it. So year equals convert dot to int year string. So that'll handle the year. And you probably can't notice it now, but the year is no longer being in there as a warning saying that it's never being used. So now I want to do each employee. Now I don't have to do any conversion here. It's already a string. So that's nothing I have to do there. So all right. So that is asking me for the first employee's name that I'm reading in, then the first employee's salary that I'm reading in, then I'm converting it to a number. I want to do this 3 times. All right, so this will be employee 2, and I want to make sure I change all of them. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then finally for employee 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. What happened here? Oh, this should be 1. I'm sorry. Oh, that's fine. I'll do it like this. So that's 3. That's 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3. This one still says 1. So let's copy that one up to the top. All right, so now I'm reading in all of my stuff, and notice I no longer have any warnings. All right. So all that's left basically for me to do is to write stuff out. Now, I just want to show you this that right now nothing will be written, but it's all my inputs should be working. So if I run this, enter current year, 2024, enter employee 1 name, Jeff, enter salary, $50,000, enter employee 2 name, Mary, enter her salary, $65,000, enter employee 3 name, Barb, enter her salary, $75,000. That's all it's doing because we haven't told it to do anything else. All right. There's really and truly very little calculation in this program. All right. So I'm going to go right to a write line here. And again, I did it like this because of the way I formatted it. So it's going to look a little quirky. Oh, I'm missing something. Yeah, year. M1, M2, M3. Yeah, that's good. All right, I don't need that. All right, so that's the beginning of it. And then I need another right line. I'm going to run this as soon as I put this one in. So let's copy this and make changes. All right. So this will be the actual year. This. All right. That should print out my first year for everybody. I may have screwed something up, but we'll check right now. So let's do a file, save all, and run it. We'll use the same people we had here. So we will have 20, well, I'll use the same year and everything. So let me move this. 2018. Bob, $10,000. Fred, $20,000. Will, $30,000. Oh, okay. I forgot my read line statement in here. So that's why you saw it fly right off the page. Gotta run it again. $2018. Bob, $10,000. Fred, dollars. Will, $30,000. And that's what we have so far. Well, that's got to be moved over, but that's not bad. So year, Bob, Fred, Will. There's the first year, and I've got to move over the stuff for Will. All right. So let's fix that. Should fix it. Now I'm done with the first year. So what do I want to do? Well, I got to do the second and third year. So I want to take the year and I want to add 1 to it, plus year. All right. Plus I want to give Bob and Will and Fred their raise. Okay. So what do I want to do? Well, basically, I want to do this 3 times. There's other ways of doing it, but with what we've learned so far, what I'm showing you is probably the easiest way of doing it. So EMP1, salary, all right, plus equals. So I want to add to their salary times 4%. And I want to do that for each employee. So EMP2 and EMP3 and EMP2 and EMP3. Now the nice thing, whoops, is this doesn't change. So now I can grab this and I can put that right below this. And it's also nice because now I can copy this whole thing and put it down here. And now I should have all three of my years. Let's see. I mean, I could have screwed something up. So File, Save All. All right, again, we're going to use everything that they showed. I think it was 2018. And it was with Fred, Will, and no, too long a day, Bob. So Bob, 10,000. Fred, 20,000. And Will, 30,000. And well, something screwed up. I'm doing the name and the year every time. So I'm printing too much. But when you look at it, all the figures are right. All right, so all I have to do is take this line where I'm printing in the names and the years. Well, I can put the year in there, but this thing with the name, with year and all these names, let's get rid of that and run it again. All right, that's copying too much stuff over. So let's see. The raise, then all we need is this, and all we need is this. That should fix it, hopefully. So 2018, Bob, $10,000. Fred, $20,000. And Will, $30,000. There's everything. And let's compare that to the chart. All right, so 10,000, 10,400, 10,816, 20,000, 20,800, 21,632, 30,000, 31,200, 32,448. Again, it's by no means perfect. I could have put some underlines in, but it doesn't look bad. At least in my opinion, it doesn't look too bad. All right, so that is the third one. And again, what we did in there, we set up our variables. All right, then we said to enter the year. You only have to enter the year once. So we entered it. It goes in as a string and we converted it to an integer. Then for each employee, we entered their name. There was no conversion to be done. It was already a string. So it was just a read line. Then for each employee, we entered their salary. And again, since that went in as a string, we had to convert it. So that was employee 1 and employee 2 and employee 3. Then again, this, unfortunately, I put it in 3 times, but those were our headings. Year, and then in one case, it was Bob and Fred and Will. Then we had to print out their salaries. Then each time the year ended, we added 1 to the year and we added 4% to their current salary. And then we printed it off again. The year ended. So again, we added 1 to the year. We gave them a 4% raise and we printed it out one last time. And literally, that's it. That's the entire program. All right, so let's take a quick look at the last one that's in here. Is a rental company charges $100 per day. All right, is some kind of a rental fee plus 50 cents a mile. Now, I made both of those constants. To me, that made sense. So I made one constant that I called per day charge and another constant I called per mile charge. Again, this is not a very difficult program. And if you look in here, we did that one earlier. This is my interface for that program. All right, so you'll see, and I never changed the label. Number of days in a text box, number of miles in a text box. That should have said total charge in a read-only text box. And as always, our 3 buttons. So again, it's a fairly simple interface. Let's build that right now. So again, I'm going to copy this. I did come out during the break and I made a fourth program right here, and I did make it as a form. All right, so let's start by changing the name of the form. So it's FRM car rental or something like that. And I'll change the text to car rental program. All right, and as I do, change my back color. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we're up to purple. All right. And again, I'm going to put in my buttons. The order, as I said before, doesn't matter really, the order in which you put this stuff in. All right. And we said 3 labels and 3 text boxes. All right. Change my font size. It doesn't look too bad. Do what I always do. So I'm going to take the labels and center them. I'm going to take the text boxes and center those. I'm going to set my start position to center screen. All right, this one is going to be read only. All right, and I'm going to set my tab order to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And start naming our stuff. So this is going to be, I think, number of days and number of miles. Yep, number of days and number of miles. So this one will be, I'm just going to use a number sign because otherwise I'll have to dink around with making these line up and whatever. So can't put it here, but LBL, number of days. Then down here, again, I'm just going to use the pound sign for number of days. All right. And this will be TXT, number of days. All right. Then this will be LBL, number of miles. And again, I'll use the pound sign here. And this will be TXT, number of miles. And this will be total charge. So it'll be LBL, total charge. And total charge will be the text. And finally, this will be TXT, total charge rather. All right, and all that's left then is our buttons. Right. Now I can come in and set my accept button and my cancel button. All right, so everything as far as I know here should be done. Calculate, we're going to call calculate total charge. It's really not very difficult, so we can write this right now. But before we do, all right, I'm not going to put anything in there yet. I'm going to put in two constants here. All right, and it's what I mentioned before. Again, declare and initialize program constants. All right, and we'll have const decimal, boy, oh boy, per day charge, and that was $100. And that can't be up there. That has to be down here. And the other one is going to be my const per mile chart, const decimal per mile charge. And that was equal to 0.50. Yeah. Those are my two constants. All right, per day and per mile. Okay, just leave it like that. So down here in my calculate charge, it's only 3 or 4 lines. Int total days equal convert dot to int. I mean, the number of days you have, all right, is going to be a whole number. So that's going to be convert dot to int 32 txt number of days dot text. And we'll have a decimal for total miles, and that'll be equal to convert dot to decimal, and that'll be txt total miles. Oops, number of miles. All right. And then finally, let's line these up a little bit so it's easier to read. Our total charge. And that is, and I probably could do it without the parens, but I use parens, total days times per day charge. Oops. Plus, don't worry about that. We'll get that. We'll fix that in a second. I spelled total wrong here. All right. So total days plus day charge, and then total miles, and that is going to be time charge. All right, and that's it. And then finally, I'll have to come down here and say txt total charge dot text equals total charge dot to string, and we'll convert it so that it prints out in a decimal format, or a currency format, I should say. So that's those. Again, we want to clear, 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 and set the focus. So that'll be next. We'll call clear form. right, and then finally for our exit button, again, I will copy it in. And I think we're done. Let's run it first, and then we'll go back and kind of dissect it and take a quick look at it. Oops. Well, I remembered once out of about 10 times to reset this. All right, number of days. Let's say you were there 10 days. So that's $1,000 right now. All right. And let's say you did 1,000 miles. All right. So that should be 500 because it's 50 cents a mile. So 10 times 100, which is 1,000, plus 1,000 times 0.5, which is 500, which says if I did the right calculation, this should come up as $1,500.00. And it does. All right. Now, one thing we could check in here, I mean, if you have it for 10 days, even if you put no miles on it, all right, it's going to break. So we could check this, for nothing in there. That's what we're going to be getting to in later chapters. All right. I didn't want to give you too much of that stuff. Heck, we're 3 days in, and you've had a lot thrown at you already. All right. So in here, we declare two constants. They're both decimal. So every day you have the car, it's $100. Every mile you put on the car, it's 50 cents. All right. Then when we calculate our total charge, we figure out your total days by taking that number that we put in there and at least attempting to convert it to an integer. And int is a whole number. Then miles, we convert it to a decimal because number of miles could be at least partial mile. All right. And the total charge is the days times the day charge plus the miles times the miles charge. And we just put that into that last text box right here. Clearing the form is what we've been doing all period. Clear, 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 set focus. And exit program, I gave you that code. So that's what we've been doing all period. All right. So that is the 4 problems that you have for homework. Again, those I'm not saving. All right. But I think I forgot to send out during the break, but I will send out the, I'll check. If I haven't sent it out, I'll send out the practice ones that we did. So let's look at the last thing that's in here. All right. Close that. So this is your pretest. And I'm telling you, this is really the last 3, or well, the middle ones are harder than the beginning and last one. For this one, write a C#, notice a console program that takes an age and prints something like 20 is old enough to vote. But if you put in a number that's less than 18, 13 is not old enough to vote. And I said use a constant. So you can call, voting age or minimum voting age. All right. What we would like to eventually do in here, is something like you would want to check and see, and if the age was less than 1 or was greater than maybe 125, you wouldn't even accept that as a valid age. But I'm not worried about that right now. So that's this vote checker. All right. I'm going to on Tuesday rather, I'm going to give you again 2 hours to work on this. And then afterwards, I'm going to create this. So I'm going to make a pretest folder, and this will be pretest 01_01, pretest 01_02, etc. All right. So for converting the seconds, grab a number. So you put in 1,000,000 and convert it into hours and convert it into minutes. I'm going to give you a hint, a big hint here. Use the modulo. How many hours are in a day? How many minutes are in an hour? All right, modulo is the remainder. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Then you're kind of going the other way. So you're taking two integers, one that represents a number of hours and one that represents a number of minutes. And between those, you're converting it into a number of seconds. Don't make these problems too hard. I'll always remember this, that I was teaching at another college and students had their first assignment. And there was a woman who was having problems with her code. She's a really, really bright lady. And I said, okay. So I walked over by her desk and we were talking. And I said, well, what are you doing? She goes, I'm testing. And it was her first number that she put in as a test was pi, 3.14159 or whatever it is. But she had it out to like 10 decimal places. When you're starting to test with simple values because you know what they should be. Then you can come up with harder values. All right, finally, these last two, write a C# console program to input a person's age. Then figure out the number of days you've been on this earth based on today. All right, might be a little depressing. I know for me it was. All right, and then finally, and I probably shouldn't say this, but you know what? I am anyway. This last problem is very similar to one of the ones you're going to have on your test next week, except you don't have to find the smallest and largest. You only have to find the average. So I made it a little harder. We already did a program where you took four numbers as input and we did the average. So you've kind of got this already. But see if you can figure out how to do the smallest number and the largest number. Give these things, as the saying goes, the old college try. If I would think you could probably do this one. I would think you could probably do this one. You may struggle or not even be able to do these middle three. And if you can't, it's okay. All right. Literally, one of the questions on the test pretty much asks you to print out your name. Believe it or not, that's like a quarter of the test. Why did they do that? I don't know, but I'm supposed to give that test, so I'm going to. All right. So try to work on these. If you have questions, let me know if you do work on it before then. Otherwise, again, there's no class Monday. On Tuesday, all right, from 8 till 10. All right, I'll probably just put this into my morning email. But from 8 until 10, you get to work on this. Then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to write each one of these, all five. All right. So that's what we'll have. Then on Wednesday of next week, and I don't know what day that is, like the 17th or something like that, you'll have your first test. And it'll be, it won't be this, but it'll be one page. It'll ask you to do something. I'll email it out to everybody at 7 a.m. Then at 8 o'clock or 8:05, I should say, for about 10 or 15 minutes, I'll go over the test to make sure that everybody understands it. Now, again, today's lecture and the lecture that we do Wednesday, that 15-minute lecture, when I go over the test instructions, they will both be private videos. So the one you've got right now that we're working on right now will also be private. So I will send out an email to you later, and it'll say something like, you should have received or will shortly receive a YouTube invite to this. If it's a half an hour or an hour later and you don't get one, please email me and I'll try doing it again. All right. But as I mentioned before, as far as I know, Mr. Gegelman is not doing a pretest and he's not doing practice exercises. He's just assigning homework. All right. Like pretty much the stuff that I went over with the homework today. Now he's got it in many ways. He's got it tougher than I do because he's got 26 people. I've got 17, but he's got 26 people in a classroom. So he told me the first day, it was when they were setting stuff up, it was, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And he said he was just running around, as the saying goes, like a chicken without a head. And that's why we're pretty much ahead of their class. All right. Now, if you do have any comments, for instance, you're going way too fast. I don't get any of this, whatever. You want to email me, email me. After you write your test next week, and I said this on day one, I'm saying it again because I'm trying to be consistent, okay? And let's just say you work on it real hard, but you don't do well. All right. Anybody can have a bad day. All right. But with that said, if you don't pass the test, then I have to go out, just so you see this, then I have to go out onto my inside ranking. All right. And I have to, well, I got to log in. And after I do that, I have to fill out one of these early alert messages. So it'll have your name on it, what the problem is, etc. What we did last semester was we waited until halfway into the semester to start sending these out. And what we were told by the people who are on the administrative side was, no, you do it all semester. If you've got somebody who's failing the entire semester and you have to give them 20 of them, you do that. All right. This also gets sent out to the called the student success coordinators. So they'll call you up and say, hey, what's the problem that you're having? Can we help you? If it does turn out that we need to get tutors for the class, I will talk to Mr. Gudmested and ask him if the same people who tutored last semester are available this semester. Last thing then, you've seen it before. You all got an email from me this morning on this too, but again, please, I think that 12 of the 17 of you have gotten back. Let me know if you want a hard copy. If you've already gotten back to me that said, I want a hard copy, if you didn't say which bookstore or which campus you want it sent to, send me another email and say, just put in there, St. Louis, or put in there, Wentzville. All right. If you don't want a copy, there's 5 of you who have not gotten back to me. If you don't get back to me by Tuesday at the beginning of class, I'm going to assume you don't want one. All right. There are currently, to my knowledge, 5 copies at the Wentzville campus. There are 2 buildings at the Wentzville campus. The second building, the one closest to Parr Road, is the Larry Elms Training Center. It's actually a big union hall that Rankin rents out. If you go in there, you go through the doors and make a right. The second door on your right will be Mr. Glynn's office. He is typically there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. He is the one who will give you your book. All right. If I went through anything today that didn't make sense to you, all right, please let me know and I'll try to help you or do whatever I can. All right. So let's see. I don't think that I sent out to you. I'm looking in here. I don't believe that I've sent out to you the practice exercises that I put into a zip folder. So I'm going to do that, and I will include that in the email that I give you all the time that says, hey, today we went over this. All right. So hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy your Monday off. I will see you next Tuesday, the 16th at 8:05. See you then.